Hey Sec 4, I hope you're all doing well. So today we're going to actually finish off The Perks of Being a Wallflower, and I decided that because it's the end of the book, I would read it with you guys, or I guess to you guys, that way we can log on once I'm done the reading, and if you're following along you'll be done at the same time, at least the listening part. And then we'll discuss. So I want to do it like an end of novel discussion to discuss the contents of the novel, what happened, things like that. So I'm gonna literally be reading. I'll record myself. While I'm recording myself, I'm gonna read the end of the novel with you guys, and then so please listen, and then we're gonna log on to a video chat to discuss. Okay, so if you're using the PDF, we're starting from the June 22nd entry all the way through the epilogue. So June 22nd starts on page 111 on the PDF, and in the novel, it is, if you have the physical copy of the book, it is page, hold on, let me find it. Page 197. Okay, so what we've read so far, we know that basically Charlie's having a really hard time as his friends are graduating. They finish school a little bit earlier than him. They're getting ready to go off to college in a couple months, and Charlie's feeling very lonely. So, so June 22nd, again, it's page 197 in the book, and it's page 111 if you're using the PDF. So, dear friend, the night before Sam was going to leave made the whole week a blur. Sam was frantic because not only did she need to spend time with us, but she had to get ready to go, buying things, packing things, things like that. Every night, we would all get together after Sam had just said goodbye to some uncle, or had another lunch with her mom, or had done more shopping for school things. She was scared, and it wasn't until she had a sip of whatever we were drinking, or a hit off of whatever we were smoking, that she would calm down and be the same Sam. The one thing that really helped Sam through her week was her lunch with Craig. She said she wanted to see him to have some kind of closure, and I guess she was lucky enough to get it because Craig was nice enough to tell her that she was right to break up with him, and that she was a special person, and that he was sorry and wished her well. It's strange the times people choose to be generous. The best part was that Sam said she didn't ask him about the girls he might be dating, even though she wanted to know. She wasn't bitter. She was sad, though, but it was a hopeful kind of sad, the kind of sad that just takes time. On the night before she left, we were all there at Sam and Patrick's house, Bob, Alice, Mary Elizabeth, without Peter, and I. We just sat on the rug in the games room, remembering things. Remember the show where Patrick did this? Or remember when Bob did this? Or Charlie? Or Mary Elizabeth? Or Alice? Or Sam? The inside jokes weren't jokes anymore. They had become stories. Nobody brought up the bad names or the bad times, and nobody felt sad as long as we could postpone tomorrow with more nostalgia. After a while, Mary Elizabeth and Bob and Alice left, saying they would be back in the morning to see Sam off. So it was just me, Patrick, and Sam, just sitting there, not saying much, until we started our own Remember When. Remember when Charlie first came to us at the football game? And remember when Charlie let the air out of Dave's tires at the homecoming dance? And remember the poem? And the mixtape? And Punk Rocky in color? And remember when we all felt infinite? After I said that, we all got quiet and sad. In the silence, I remember this one time that I never told anybody about. The time we were walking, just the three of us, and I was in the middle. I don't remember where we were walking to or where we were walking from. I don't even remember the season. I just remember walking between them and feeling for the first time that I belonged somewhere. Finally, Patrick stood up. I'm tired, guys. Good night. Then he messed up our hair and went up to his room. Sam turned to me. Charlie, I have to pack up some things. Would you stay with me for a while? I nodded and we went upstairs. As we entered her room, I noticed how different it looked from the night Sam kissed me. The pictures were down and the dressers were empty and everything was in a big pile on the bed. I said to myself that I would not cry no matter what because I didn't want to make Sam feel any more panicked than she already was. So I just watched her pack and I tried to notice as many details as I possibly could. Her long hair and her thin wrists and her green eyes. I wanted to remember everything, especially the sound of her voice. Sam talked about a lot of things, trying to keep herself distracted. She talked about what a long drive that they had tomorrow and how her parents had rented a van. She wondered what her classes would be like and what her eventual major would be. She said she didn't want to join a sorority, but was looking forward to the football games. She was just getting more and more sad. Finally, she turned around. "Why didn't you ask me out when the whole Craig thing happened?" I just sat there. I didn't know what to say. She said it soft. "Charlie, after that thing with Mary Elizabeth at the party and us dancing at the club and everything, I didn't know what to say, honestly. I was lost." "Okay, Charlie, I'll make this easy. When that whole thing with Craig happened, what did you think?" She really wanted to know. I said, "Well, I thought a lot of things, but mostly I thought that your being sad was much more important to me than Craig not being your boyfriend anymore. And if it meant that I would never get to think of you that way, as long as you were happy, it was okay. That's when I realized that I really loved you." She sat down on the floor with me. She spoke quiet. "Charlie, don't you get it? I can't feel that. It's sweet and everything, but it's like you're not even there sometimes. It's great that you can listen and be a shoulder to someone, but what about when someone doesn't need a shoulder? What if they need the arms or something like that? You can't just sit there and put everybody's lives ahead of yours and think that counts as love. You just can't. You have to do things." "Like what?" I asked. My mouth was dry. "I don't know, like take their hands when the slow song comes up for a change, or be the one who asks someone for a date, or tell people what you need, or what you want, like on the dance floor. Did you want to kiss me?" "Yeah," I said. "Then why didn't you?" she asked, real serious. "Because I didn't think you wanted me to." "Why did you think that?" "Because of what you said. What I said 9 months ago, when I told you not to think of me that way?" I nodded. "Charlie, I also told you not to tell Mary Elizabeth she was pretty, and to ask her a lot of questions and not interrupt her. Now she's with a guy who does the exact opposite, and it works because that's who Peter really is. He's being himself, and he does things. But I didn't like Mary Elizabeth." "Charlie, you're missing the point. The point is that I don't think you would have acted different even if you did like Mary Elizabeth. It's like you can come to Patrick's rescue and hurt 2 guys that are trying to hurt him. But what about when Patrick's hurting himself? Like when you guys went to that park, or when he was kissing you. Did you want him to kiss you?" I shook my head no. "So why did you let him?" "I was just trying to be a friend," I said. "But you weren't, Charlie. At those times, you weren't being his friend at all, because you weren't honest with him." I sat very still. I looked at the floor. I didn't say anything, very uncomfortable. "Charlie, I told you not to think of me that way 9 months ago because of what I'm saying now, not because of Craig, not because I didn't think you were great. It's just that I don't want to be somebody's crush. If somebody likes me, I want them to like the real me, not what they think I am. And I don't want them to carry it around inside. I want them to show me so I can feel it too. I want them to be able to do whatever they want around me, and if they do something I don't like, I'll tell them." She was starting to cry a little, but she wasn't sad. "You know, I blame Craig for not letting me do things. You know how stupid I feel about that now? Maybe he didn't really encourage me to do things, but he didn't prevent me from doing them either. But after a while, I didn't do things because I didn't want him to think different about me. But the thing is, I wasn't being honest. So why would I care whether or not he loved me when he didn't really even know me?" I looked up at her. She had stopped crying. "So tomorrow I'm leaving, and I'm not going to let that happen again with anyone else. I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm going to be who I really am, and I'm going to figure out what that is. But right now, I'm here with you, and I want you to know where you are, what you need, and what you want to do." She waited patiently for my answer, but after everything she said, I figured that I should just do what I wanted to do. Not think about it, not say it out loud, and if she didn't like it, then she could just say so, and we could go back to packing. So I kissed her, and she kissed me back, and we lay down on the floor and kept kissing, and it was soft, and we made quiet noises, and kept silent and still. We went over to the bed and lay down on all the things that weren't put in suitcases, and we touched each other from the waist up over our clothes, and then under our clothes, and then without clothes, and it was so beautiful. She was so beautiful. She took my hand and slid it under her pants, and I touched her, and I just couldn't believe it. It was like everything made sense, until she moved her hand under my pants, and she touched me. That's when I stopped her. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Did that hurt?" I shook my head. It felt good, actually. I didn't know what was wrong. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." "No, don't be sorry," I said. "But I feel bad," she said. "Please Please don't feel bad. It was very nice, I said. I was starting to get really upset. You're not ready, she asked. I nodded, but that wasn't it. I didn't know what it was. It's okay that you're not ready, she said. She was being really nice to me, but I was just feeling so bad. Charlie, do you want to go home? She asked. I guess I nodded because she helped me get dressed, and then she put on her shirt, and I wanted to kick myself for being such a baby because I loved Sam, and we were together, and I was ruining it, just terrible. I felt so terrible. She took me outside. Do you need a ride? She asked. I had my father's car. I wasn't drunk. She looked really worried. No, thanks. Charlie, I'm not going to let you drive like this. I'm sorry. I'll walk then, I said. It's 2:00 in the morning. I'm driving you home. She went to another room to get the car keys. I just stood in the entry hall. I felt like I wanted to die. You're white as a sheet, Charlie. Do you need some water? No. I don't know. I started to cry really hard. Here, just lie down on the couch, she said. She laid me down on the couch. She brought out a damp washcloth and put it on my forehead. You can sleep here tonight, okay? Okay. Just calm down. Take deep breaths. I did what she told me, and just before I fell asleep, I said something. I can't do that anymore. I'm sorry, I said. It's okay, Charlie. Just go to sleep, Sam said. But I wasn't talking to Sam anymore. I was talking to someone else. When I fell asleep, I had this dream. My brother and my sister and I were watching television with my Aunt Helen. Everything was in slow motion. The sound was thick, and she was doing what Sam was doing. That's when I woke up, and I didn't know what the hell was going on. Sam and Patrick were standing over me. Patrick asked if I wanted some breakfast. I guess I nodded. We went and ate. Sam still looked worried. Patrick looked normal. We had bacon and eggs with our parents, and everyone made small talk. I don't know why I'm telling you about bacon and eggs. It's not important. It's not important at all. Mary Elizabeth and everyone came over, and while Sam's mom was busy checking everything twice, we all walked to the driveway. Sam and Patrick's parents got in the van. Patrick got in the driver's side of Sam's pickup truck, telling everyone he'd see them in a couple of days. Then Sam hugged and said goodbye to everyone. Since she was coming back for a few days toward the end of summer, it was more of a see ya than a goodbye. I was last. Sam walked up and held me for a long time. Finally, she whispered in my ear. She said a lot of wonderful things about how it was okay that I wasn't ready last night, and how she would miss me, and how she wanted me to take care of myself while she was gone. You're my best friend, was all I could say in return. She smiled and kissed my cheek, and it was like, for a moment, the bad part of last night disappeared. But it still felt like a goodbye rather than a see ya. The thing was, I didn't cry. I didn't know what I felt. Finally, Sam climbed into her pickup, and Patrick started it up. And a great song was playing, and everyone smiled, including me. But I wasn't there anymore. It wasn't until I couldn't see the cars that I came back and things started feeling bad again. But this time, they felt much worse. Mary Elizabeth and everyone were crying now, and they asked me if I wanted to go to the big boy or something. I told them no, thank you. I need to go home. Are you okay, Charlie? Mary Elizabeth asked. I guess I was starting to look bad again because she looked worried. I'm fine. I'm just tired, I lied. I got in my dad's car and drove away, and I could hear all these songs on the radio, but the radio wasn't on. And when I got into the driveway, I think I forgot to turn off the car. I just went to the couch in the family room where the TV is, and I could see the TV shows, but the TV wasn't on. I don't know what's wrong with me. It's like all I can do is keep writing this gibberish to keep from breaking apart. Sam's gone, and Patrick won't be home for a few days, and I just couldn't talk with Mary Elizabeth or anybody, or my brother, or anybody in my family, except maybe my Aunt Helen. But she's gone, and even if she were here, I don't think I could talk to her either, because I'm starting to feel like what I dreamt about her last night was true, and my psychiatrist's questions weren't weird after all. So he had dreamt, just to reiterate if you missed that part, that his Aunt Helen was touching him the way Sam was touching him, so touching his genitals, basically. I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. I know other people have it a lot worse. I do know that, but it's crashing in anyway, and I just can't stop thinking that the little kid eating French fries with his mom in the shopping mall is going to grow up and hit my sister. I'd do anything not to think that I know. I'm thinking too fast again, and it's all in my head like the trance, but it's there, and it won't go away. I just keep seeing him, and he keeps hitting my sister, and he won't stop, and I want him to stop because he doesn't mean it, but he just doesn't listen, and I don't know what to do. I'm sorry, but I have to stop this letter now. But first, I want to thank you for being one of those people who listens and understands and doesn't try to sleep with people even though you could have. I really mean it, and I'm sorry I've put you through this when you don't even know who I am, and we've never met in person, and I can't tell you who I am because I promised to keep all those little secrets. I just don't want you to think that I picked your name out of the phone book. It would kill me if you thought that. So please believe me when I tell you that I felt terrible after Michael died, and I saw a girl in class who didn't notice me, and she talked all about you to a friend of hers. And even though I don't know you, I felt like I did because you sounded like such a good person. The kind of person who wouldn't mind receiving letters from a kid. The kind of person who would understand how they were better than a diary because there is communion and a diary can be found. I just don't want you to worry about me or think that you've met me or waste your time anymore. I'm so sorry that I wasted your time because you really do mean a lot to me, and I hope you have a very nice life because I really think you deserve it. I really do. I hope you do too. Okay then, goodbye. Love always, Charlie. So we still have the epilogue, so it is a little long, but please bear with me because it is definitely worth it. August 23rd, 1992. Dear friend, I've been in the hospital for the past 2 months. They just released me yesterday. The doctor told me that my mother and father found me sitting on the couch in the family room. I was completely naked, just watching the television, which wasn't on. So if you remember, he was, seeing the TV, but it wasn't on, hearing the radio, but it wasn't on. He was in a trance, basically, in a daze, walking around, driving. I wouldn't speak or snap out of it, they said. My father even slapped me to wake me up, and like I told you, he never hits. But it didn't work, so they brought me to the hospital where I stayed when I was 7 after my Aunt Helen died. They told me I didn't speak or acknowledge anyone for a week. Not even Patrick, whom I guess visited me during that time. It's scary to think about. All I remember is putting the letter in the mailbox. The next thing I knew, I was sitting in a doctor's office, and I remembered my Aunt Helen, and I started to cry. And the doctor, who turned out to be a very nice woman, started asking me questions, which I answered. I don't really want to talk about the questions and answers, but I kind of figured out that everything I dreamt about my Aunt Helen was true. And after a while, I realized that it had happened every Saturday when we would watch television. The first few weeks in the hospital were very hard. The hardest part was sitting in the doctor's office when the doctor told my mom and dad what had happened. I had never seen my mother cry so much, or my father look so angry, because they didn't know it was happening when it was. So basically he's saying that every Saturday when his Aunt Helen would watch him and his siblings, she would molest him. And he's finally remembering this. But the doctor has helped me work out a lot of things since then, about my Aunt Helen and about my family and friends and me. There are a lot of stages to these kinds of things, and she was really great through all of them. The things that helped me the most, though, was the time I could have visitors. My family, including my brother and sister, always came for those days until my brother had to go back to school to play football. After that, my family came without my brother, and my brother sent me cards. He even told me on his last card that he read my report on Walden and liked it a lot, which made me feel really good. Just like the first time I saw Patrick, the best thing about Patrick is that even when you're in a hospital, he doesn't change. He just cracks jokes to make you feel better instead of asking you questions about feeling worse. He even brought me a letter from Sam, and Sam said that she was coming back at the end of August, and if I got better by then, she and Patrick would drive me through the tunnel, and this time I could stand in the back of the pickup truck if I wanted to. Things like that helped more than anything. The days when I received mail were good. My grandfather sent me a really nice letter. So did my great-aunt, so did my grandma and great-uncle Phil. My Aunt Rebecca even sent me flowers with a card that was signed by all my Ohio cousins. It was nice to know they were thinking about me, just like it was nice the time Patrick brought Mary Elizabeth and Alice and Bob and everyone for a visit, including Peter and Craig. I guess they're friends again, and I was glad they were, just like I was glad that Mary Elizabeth did most of the talking, because it made things feel more normal. Mary Elizabeth even stayed a little later than the others. I was so happy to have a chance to talk with her alone before she left for Berkeley. Just like I was happy for Bill and his girlfriend when they came to see me 2 weeks ago. They're getting married this November, and they want me to go to their wedding. It's nice to have things to look forward to. The time it started to feel like everything was going to be all right was the time when my sister and brother stayed after my parents had left. This was sometime in July. They asked me a lot of questions about my Aunt Helen because I guess nothing had ever happened to them, and my brother looked really sad, and my sister looked really mad. It was at that time that things started to get clearer because there was nobody to hate anyone after that. What I mean is that I looked at my brother and sister and I thought that maybe someday they would be an aunt and uncle just like I would be an uncle, just like my mother and Aunt Helen were sisters. And we could all sit around and wonder and feel bad about each other and blame a lot of people for what they did or didn't do or what they didn't know. I don't know. I guess there could always be someone to blame. Maybe if my grandfather didn't hit her, my mom wouldn't be so quiet. And maybe she wouldn't have married my dad because he didn't hit. And maybe I would never have been born. But I'm very glad to have been born, so I don't know what to say about it, especially since my mom seems happy with her life, and I don't know what else there is to want. It's like if I blamed my Aunt Helen, I would have to blame her dad for hitting her, and the friend of the family that fooled around with her when she was little, and the person that fooled around with him, and God for not stopping all this and things that are much worse. And I did do that for a while, but then I just couldn't anymore because it wasn't going anywhere, because it wasn't the point. So he's kind of saying here that he doesn't necessarily blame his Aunt Helen for what she did because this is the kind of abuse that she faced, and it's something that it goes back to that cycle of abuse that we spoke about. When you grow up with something and especially when it comes to abuse, it definitely affects the way that you think and the way that you see right and wrong, especially at a very young age. And these are demons that his Aunt Helen never really faced in her life. She never really worked on herself, and this kind of became the way that she also expressed herself. And he's saying that it goes back to the person who abused her, and potentially there was a person who abused the man that abused his Aunt Helen. So it's like a vicious cycle of abuse that just doesn't go away. I'm not the way I am because of what I dreamt and remembered about my Aunt Helen. That's what I figured out when things got quiet, and I think that's very important to know. It made things feel clear and together. Don't get me wrong, I know what happened was important, and I needed to remember it. But it's like when my doctor told me the story of these two brothers whose dad was a bad alcoholic. One brother grew up to be a successful carpenter who never drank. The other brother ended up being a drinker as bad as his dad was. When they asked the first brother why he didn't drink, he said that after he saw what it did to his father, he could never bring himself to even try it. When they asked the other brother, he said that he guessed he learned how to drink on his father's knee. So I guess we are who we are for a lot of reasons, and maybe we'll never know most of them. But even if we don't have the power to choose where we come from, we can still choose where we go from there. We can still do things, and we can try to feel okay about them. I think that if I ever have kids and they are upset, I won't tell them that people are starving in China or anything like that because it wouldn't change the fact that they were upset. And even if somebody else had it much worse, that doesn't really change the fact that you have what you have. Good and bad. Just like what my sister said when I had been in the hospital for a while. She said that she was really worried about going to college, and considering what I was going through, she felt really dumb about it. But I don't know why she would feel dumb. I'd be worried too. And really, I don't think I have it any better or worse than she does. I don't know, it's just different. Maybe it's good to put things in perspective, but sometimes I think that the only perspective is to really be there. Like Sam said, because it's okay to feel things and to be who you are about them. When I got released yesterday, my mom drove me home. It was in the afternoon and she asked me if I was hungry and I said yes. Then she asked me what I wanted and I told her I wanted to go to McDonald's like we did when I was little and got sick and stayed home from school. So we went there, and it was so nice to be with my mom and eat French fries, and later that night to be with my family at dinner time and have things just like they always were. That was the amazing part. Things just keep going. We didn't talk about anything heavy or light. We were just there together, and that was enough. So today, my father went to work, and my mother took my sister and me out to take care of last-minute things for my sister since she's leaving for college in a few days. When we got back, I called Patrick's house because he said that Sam should be home by then. Sam answered the phone, and it was so nice to hear her voice. Later, they came by in Sam's pickup truck, and we went to the big boy just like we always did. Sam told us about her life in school, which sounded very exciting, and I told her about my life in the hospital, which didn't. And Patrick made jokes to keep everyone honest. After we left, we got in Sam's pickup truck, and just like Sam promised, we drove to the tunnel. About half a mile from the tunnel, Sam stopped the car, and I climbed in the back. Patrick played the radio really loud so I could hear it, and we were approaching the tunnel. I listened to the music and thought about all the things that people have said to me over the past year. I thought about Bill telling me I was special, and my sister saying she loved me, and my mom too, and even my dad and brother when I was in the hospital. I thought about Patrick calling me his friend, and I thought about Sam telling me to do things, to really be there, and I just thought how great it was to have friends and family. As we went into the tunnel, I didn't hold up my arms like I was flying. I just let the wind rush over my face, and I started crying and smiling at the same time, because I couldn't help feeling just how much I loved my aunt for buying me 2 presents, and how much I wanted the present I bought for my mom for my birthday to be really special, and how much I wanted my sister and brother and Sam and Patrick and everyone else to be happy. But mostly I was crying because I was suddenly very aware of the fact that it was me standing up in that tunnel with the wind over my face. Not caring if I saw downtown, not even thinking about it, because I was standing in the tunnel and I was really there, and that was enough to make me feel infinite. Tomorrow I start my sophomore year of high school, and believe it or not, I'm really not that afraid of going. I'm not sure if I will have the time to write any more letters because I might be too busy trying to participate. So if this does end up being my last letter, please believe that things are good with me, and even when they're not, they will be soon enough, and I will believe the same about you. Love always, Charlie. The end. Alright guys, so it is a really intense ending. Things do wrap up quite nicely. What I'd like is for, now that you're done the video, for you to join the video chat, and we're going to discuss the end of the novel together, okay? So please, everybody join, and we'll discuss in 2 minutes, all right? See ya.